Hello, Bookish Babes, and welcome to my book nook. If you're new around here, the name's Rainy. I'm an elementary music teacher and middle school musical theater teacher in Central Florida. That is my day job, and then I also do my booktube and all of these things, and I have a billion books behind me because I just love to talk about all things books, especially thriller and horror, but with a splash of romance and historical fiction weaved in. And I'm starting to really like fantasy as well, so I just like a whole lot of different things. But we're just going to talk about books on this channel. And then today specifically, we are going to talk about 5-star predictions for 2022. My 5-star predictions. I have chosen 25 books that I would like to get to next year. A couple of them I believe are coming out next year, but most of them have already come out recently that I have not read that I want to predict as a 5-star read based on like my taste and what I've heard from others. And so I'm just going to give a little like mini synopsis, otherwise we're going to be here forever, about what they're all about and all of that fun stuff. And then we will just see over the course of the next year whether they were 5-star and whether I can actually predict my 5-star reads. So let's get into it. And it is in no order at all. The first one came out fairly recently. It was just a December book of the month pick for December. And I didn't choose it, but I wish I had because I'm hearing a lot of really great stuff about it. So I'll probably put it in my January book of the month box. But it is A History of Wild Places. And it follows Travis Wren as a man who he can find anyone as he searches for Maggie St. James, a lost children's writer. But then he himself goes missing after he tracks her to Pastoral, an idyllic, reclusive community in the California mountains. And I've heard that this is like fantasy, like whimsically, magical, like sort of vibes. And I'm just really excited to get to it. I think I'm going to really enjoy it. Like I said, I'm going to probably pick it up in January in the book of the month box that I always get. And we will see how I like. But this is what I am predicting is going to be a 5-star read of the year. Up next we have In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. And I'm not going to lie, I've been wanting to read this book since it came out. And my mom asked for my Christmas wish list way back in the beginning of November. And I gave her this on my list. And I wish that I hadn't because I really wanted to read it like now. And I would have already bought it for myself. So now I'm just waiting a week to pray that it's in my lap for Christmas. And if it's not, I'm going to buy it. But if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes so I know what to say. So this says, it's 6 friends, 1 college reunion, 1 unsolved murder. A college reunion turns dark and deadly in this chilling and propulsive suspense novel about 6 friends, an unsolved murder, and the dark secrets they've been hiding from each other and themselves for a decade. And so it's definitely a dark academia novel. I read The Maidens and I really loved it. I've been reading the Truly Devious YA series and I've been loving it. I'm really into like dark academia type vibes. And so I think that this is going to be fabulous. I've only heard 1 bad review out of like 50 million. And so I'm just beyond excited to read this book. Like I literally could not wait any longer. I just want to read this book and have it in my hands. So we're going to fix that real soon. All right, let's talk about another book that I am beyond excited to read and get to this year, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I have had this book on my shelf for probably at least 6 months, and I just haven't read it yet. And I'm not going to lie, it's because, like, some people really hate this book, and some people really love this book. And I just hope that I'm one of the ones that love it, because it's just beautiful. But anyway, it's set place in France, 1714. In a moment of desperation, a young woman basically makes a bargain to live forever, and she's cursed to be forgotten by everybody that she meets. And so, of course, you know, that's going to go crazy, but everything changes when suddenly, after nearly 300 years, she stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore, and he actually remembers her name. And so, like, there's a whole thing about it, but I just can't even fathom a life where everybody forgets you after they've met you. Like, I can't. So anyway, I've heard this is great. I've also heard that it drags on and on for forever, and it looks like it's almost 500 pages. But I can't wait to get to it anyway. It'll be a 5-star, I'm hoping. Then another book that I need to get in Book of the Month, and I keep meaning to, and then other books get out of my way, and this is by far the most hyped romance of 2021. Like, I kind of feel embarrassed for saying I haven't read it yet because everybody and their mother has read it. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. And so that one is about a girl named Olive, or they're both scientists, a girl named Olive and a boy named Adam. And basically she is doesn't want her friends to know that she doesn't have a boyfriend or something to that extent. And so she kisses the first guy she sees, and it happens to be her scientist partner, like Adam, who's like very like grouchy, grumpy sunshine vibes. And so there begins their fake relationship. But of course, one of them probably actually likes each other, and it turns into this whole whirlwind of a romance. I've heard that this is phenomenal. I've heard the sex scene is not as great, but you know, it's her debut novel, so like, who knows? But I'm super excited to get to this. I'm sure it's going to be a 5-star. I am just ready to like soak in all of the romance. It is a Star Wars Reylo fan fiction, which I didn't know, and I have just more recently gotten into Star Wars, so I'm excited to see where that takes us. Another book that's been around for a little bit that I'm super excited to read, and everybody's been reading it, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and I'm probably going to also add to that list Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, which I just bought this book the other day, and this is the prettiest cover. Come on, zoom in. There it goes. Prettiest cover I've ever seen. Like, gorgeous. That's why it's hanging out right there. But let's get back to this one for now. So this one is about Linus Baker. He's a by-the-book caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. He lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records for company when his life is about to change. He's summoned by extremely upper management and given a highly classified assignment. Travel to an orphanage on a distant island and determine whether 6 dangerous magical children are so dangerous, in fact, that they're likely to bring about the end of days. When he arrives at that island, he's greeted by a series of mysterious figures, the greatest mystery of which is Arthur Parnassus, the master of the orphanage. As they grow closer, he discovers the master would do anything to keep the children safe, even if it means the world has to burn, or worse, his secret comes to light. This sounds really exciting. I have heard nothing but good things about this. I did hear that the author was under fire a little earlier in the year. I think it was, I can't remember what it was for, but I'm just excited for it. And I love the quote on the front. It says, "I loved it. It is like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket. Simply perfect." And that's by V.E. Schwab, who I also love, who wrote Addie LaRue. So it's just meant to be. It's going to be a 5-star read. I can't wait. Then once again, we have another book that I unfortunately asked my mom for Christmas, and so I still don't have it, and I have to wait a week to get it, and that is The Echo Wife. Now, this is about Martine, who is a genetically cloned replica made from Evelyn Caldwell's award-winning research. She's patient and gentle and obedient. She's everything Evelyn swore she would never be, and now she's having an affair with Evelyn's husband. Now, the cheating man is dead, and both Caldwell wives have a mess to clean up. Good thing Evelyn Caldwell is used to getting her hands dirty. This sounds quite intriguing. It was one of the, I believe, top 10 sci-fi of the year for Goodreads, which I didn't know it was so sci-fi dystopian, but that makes me excited. I know that Books and Lala, I believe, really loved it, Kayla, and as we know by now, like, I love her to pieces. But yeah, I'm super excited to read this one. I don't know too much more about it. That's all I've really read about it so far, so we're just going to kind of go into it blind and see how we feel. Then the next two, I also asked my mom for Christmas. Why did I tell her all of the books that I want to read? And just, why? Never again. Another 5-star prediction, I believe, is Verity by Colleen Hoover. And this is about a girl named Loan Ashley who's a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, who's the husband of the best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Loan to finish the remaining books in her series as his injured wife is unable to finish. So she arrives at the home ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to get material started, but she ends up finding an unfinished autobiography that basically has a bunch of hidden secrets in it, and it includes what happened the day that her daughter died. And so she decides to keep this manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing that its contents would devastate the already grieving father. But as her feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes that she could really benefit from it if she shared it with Jeremy. I can't wait to read this. I've heard it's phenomenal. I've heard that twist just really sucks you in and grabs you, and so I'm sure this is going to be a 5-star. I also read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover and read it, loved it. It was a 5-star. I'm just ready to read all the Coho reads in 2022. And then I also asked for this for Christmas from my mom, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Now, I did read The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, loved it, gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was great. And I've heard even better things about this one, so I'm totally excited. But this one is about Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband's a workaholic, her teenage kids have their own lives, her mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, which is a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love at true crime. They love to talk about all things true crime. One evening, she is viciously attacked by an elderly neighbor, bringing the neighbor's handsome nephew James into her life. He's well-traveled, he's well-read, he's very charming, but she just thinks there's something a little bit different about him, as I'm sure you can figure out from the title of the book. And when children on the other side of town go missing, their deaths are written off by local police, she has reason to believe that James is at the forefront of it all. And so, of course, then it's going to be up to the book club to, get rid of this vampire in their midst, and I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm ready. I'm ready for, all the fun and exciting things about this book. All right, now let's talk about a book that I did not realize was going to be such a hit, and I got it for Book of the Month because it was kind of intriguing, and I hadn't read it yet, and then it was everywhere, and it almost won, Book of the Month, Book of the Year, and that's Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And this one centers around a random act of violence. Basically, these two men who their sons are married to each other, which of course they're not excited about, their kids end up getting murdered. And so then both of the fathers are ex-convicts, and they basically band together to avenge their untimely death. And I've heard nothing but phenomenal stuff about this. Everybody said that, this book was fabulous. It has such an intriguing storyline, ex-convicts, going after the people that killed their gay kids. I think this is going to be 5 stars. I've heard it's going to make me cry. I'm not ready for the tears, but we're going to go with it. Then I want to make sure that we also talk about another book that I think is going to be a 5-star read, and that is The Seven Deaths. I've heard it's The 7.5 Deaths. I don't know why people call it that, but it's called The 7 Deaths of Evelyn, Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. And I don't remember where I found this book from. I believe someone mentioned it in a book group that I'm in, on Facebook, and it just looked really interesting. Plus, it reminds me of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, even though, all is the same as their name, but whatever. We're just gonna go with it. That's one of my favorite books. So this one is about Aiden Bishop knows the rules. Evelyn Hardcastle is gonna die every day until he can identify her killer and break the cycle. But every time that the day begins again, Aiden wakes up in the body of a different guest at Blackheath Manor, and some of his hosts are more helpful than others. It's basically following one man's race against time to find a killer. And it's really interesting to me that he's going to wake up each day in a different body, and that this person is just going to continually die over and over again. It's very Groundhog's Day-esque, and I love Groundhog's Day, the movie, and I'm about to read another Groundhog's Day book called In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, so we are all about the Groundhog's Day vibes over here. So, hopefully, this is a bop. Now let's talk about a YA book that I think is going to be a 5 stars because I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm super excited because it's part of a series and the sequel is going to be coming out very soon, is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So Legendborn basically is after her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. A residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill seems like the perfect escape for her until she witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. Flying demon feeding on human energies. A secret society of so-called Legendborn students that hunt these creatures down, and a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself Merlin, and she attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. The summary keeps going and going. There's a lot of other stuff going on with this. I'm not entirely sure if I understand all that this book is about, but I just know that it has a beautiful cover. It's super long, 500 pages, but I'm excited to read it, and I really want to get more into YA because I have a lot of YA in my, libraries, and I'm not getting to them, so here's me saying I'm gonna get to them. Now, here's a book that I'm extremely excited about, and, it's because I do circus, and so, I can't wait to read a book about circus, and it's called The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I also love Haley Hughes' BookTube account, and she just read this and said it was phenomenal, and so I'm just excited to read it. Basically, it's the circus arrives without warning, no announcements proceed, it's simply there when yesterday it was not. And then there's a fierce competition underway a duel between two young magicians, Celia and Marco, who have been trained by childhood expressly for this purpose by their mercurial instructors. Basically, there's a game where only one can be left standing, and an epic romance comes underway to screw everything up. And I'm super excited. I've heard that this romance is swoon-worthy, and that this story is just magical, and that the writing is so lyrical, and I'm just so excited because I just love circus so much, so I'm just excited. Here's another book that I picked up recently that I think is going to be a 5-star. I also just love the cover, and I'm just excited to read it, and has a really great premise. The Whisper Man by Alex North. So this is about, after the sudden death of his wife, Tom Kennedy believes a fresh start will help him and his young son Jake heal. A new beginning, a new house, and a new town. But the town of Featherbank has a dark past. 20 years ago, a serial killer had abducted and killed 5 residents. Until he was finally caught, he was nicknamed the Whisper Man, for he would lure his victims only by whispering at their window at night. Just as they settle into their new home, a young boy vanishes, and his disappearance bears an unnerving resemblance to that serial killer from years past. And we're back. My son woke up from his nap early. He is very sick. I don't know what he got, but having a toddler, a 2.5-year-old that's sick is like the worst thing ever, because the runny nose is probably like the worst thing of my life. But anyway, we're going to get back to where I was. So basically, the boy's disappearance is resembling the murders of the previous serial killer, and so he's just wondering if it's going to start happening again, and then suddenly his son starts acting strangely and hears a whisper at his window. So this looks very appealing. I'm super excited to read it. I'm sure it's going to be a 5-star. I've heard really great stuff about Alex North. I've never actually read anything before, but I want to read this and also The Shadows hopefully in 2022, but yeah. Then this is a book that is actually coming out in 2022, and I predicted that it is a 5-star because I loved the guest list so much, and it is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And this one says, Jess needs a fresh start. She's broken alone, and she's just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could stay with him for a bit, but he didn't say no, and surely everything will look better from Paris. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment, her brother's not there. And the longer that he stays missing, the more she starts to dig into his situation and the more questions she has. His neighbors are eclectic and not very friendly. She may have come to escape her past, but it's starting to look like it's Ben's future that's in question. The socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge, everybody is a neighbor and everybody's a suspect and everyone knows something they're not telling. Now, if you know Lucy Foley at all, she kind of has a lot of books that are like that, where it's just like, for example, The Hunting Party is basically almost the same story as The Guest List, which sounds like the almost same story as this, where like there's a secret and everybody's hiding secrets and just everyone's a suspect. Like, she kind of does the same thing over and over again. She's very Agatha Christie-esque, but I still really loved The Guest List, so I'm hoping this one's a 5-star as well. Then we're going to go with another Coho 5-star recommendation or read that I'm suggesting, and that is Reminders of Him, which is her new book, which comes out, I believe, January 23rd. And it's about, after serving 5 years in prison for a tragic mistake, Kenna Rowan returns to the town where it all went wrong, hoping to reunite with her 4-year-old daughter. But the bridges she burned are becoming impossible to rebuild. Everyone in her daughter's life is determined to shut her out, no matter how hard she works to prove herself. The only person who hasn't closed the door on her completely is Legendborn, a local bar owner and one of the only remaining links to Kenna's daughter. But if anyone were to discover how Ledger is slowly becoming an important part of her life, both of them could risk the trust of losing everyone around them. The two form an incredible connection despite everything that's going against them, but as their romance grows, so does the risk. Kenna has to find a way to absolve the mistakes of her past in order to build a future with Ledger. And I heard that this is such a great read. I wish I had an ARC copy of this. I can't wait till I start getting ARC copies, but I love Colleen Hoover. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. I can't wait. And with that, we're just going to keep going with books that are not coming out just yet. And this one comes out in February, and it is the second Finlay Donovan. And I am blanking on what it is called, so I'm just going to put a picture of it up here. But if you don't know, if you didn't watch my November wrap-up, I read Finlay Donovan is Killing It then and loved it. Loved it. It was fabulous, magical. I can't say anything more about it. But I'm excited to read the second one. So I don't want to say what this one is about because the end of the first book is in the synopsis of the second book, and so I'm not going to really say a lot about it. But if you don't know about the Finlay Donovan series in general, Finlay Donovan is a murder mystery writer, and in the first story she is talking to her agent in a Panera saying about their latest murder mystery, and the person sitting next to them misunderstands and thinks that she's an assassin, a hired assassin, so she asks if she can assassinate her husband, and of course it turns into this whirlwind of should I do it, should I not? And it's a very cozy mystery / funny. I warm-hearted, loved it a lot. The second one is just continuing on that premise. And so yeah, there's not much more I'm going to say about it. But what I am going to say is it's going to be a 5-star read. I can feel it. Then we are moving on to A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham, and this was a December Book of the Month pick. I am super excited about this. I will say at the time that I am recording this, I have heard a couple of people say they didn't enjoy it that much, but I am still going to hold on to hope that this is going to be a 5-star. And this is about how when Chloe Davis was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing in her small Louisiana town, and her dad confessed to being the murderer, and he was arrested and put to prison. And so, of course, they try to, like, move on and deal with the aftermath. Now, 20 years later, she is a psychologist in Baton Rouge and getting ready for her wedding. A local teenage girl goes missing, and then another, and it's starting to resemble the same thing that happened 20 years prior. Is she paranoid and seeing parallels that aren't really there, or for the second time, is she going to have to unmask another killer? This is, I believe, her debut novel. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a really awesome read. It has a really great premise, and so I just can't wait to see if it's 5 stars or not. Alright, now this is a book that I've needed to get to for forever, and so I'm finally excited that I'm going to do it in 2022. And I know it's going to be a 5-star because Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favorite authors of all time. And that's Daisy Jones and the Six. And I've heard especially I should listen to this on audiobook, and so I'm totally planning that. Plus, it was Book of the Year in 2019. So, it's basically, everybody knows Daisy Jones and the Six, but nobody knows the real reason why they split at the absolute height of their popularity until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Another band getting noticed is the Six, led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, he goes a little wild on the road. And Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. I've heard this book is phenomenal. I've heard the way it's written is really, really awesome. And I've heard that people, end up looking for, like, the music afterwards going, I want to hear stuff by Daisy Jones and the Six, but it's totally fake, and so there's no real band. I can't wait. I just know I'm going to, like, eat this alive and, like, probably read it in, like, less than a day because that's what I do with Taylor Jenkins Reid novels. I just love her, like, so much. Here's another one that I asked for Christmas, and this is probably the one that I'm most excited to read. Like, most excited. And it is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I've literally heard nothing but amazing things. I've heard this is very much, like, good for you girl energy, like, you go girl type energy. It is a dark academia. It's about Scarlett Clark, who's an exceptional English professor, but she's even better at getting away with murder. Basically, she murders men that kind of deserve it, that are not very good, and they're just not nice people. As she's preparing for her biggest kill yet, the school starts probing into the growing body count on campus. Determined to keep her enemies close, she insinuates herself into the investigation and charms the woman in charge, Dr. Mina Pierce. Everything's going according to her master plan until she loses control with her latest victim, putting her secret life at risk of exposure. And so I'm just very excited about this. I know it's going to be dark, academic, murder vibes. I mean, I love the whole, like, professor being the one to, like, just murder people that, like, have it. It's a very, like, Dexter-y type vibe. Although I couldn't watch Dexter, if we're being honest, because, like, I don't like blood and gore and all of that. I know, I can read it, but I can't watch it. I don't understand. Me. But yeah, very excited to read this book. Alright, we are on our last few 5-star predictions. The next one is going to be Near the Bone. I have heard awesome things about this. I love the cover. I love the vibes that it's giving me. I'm ready to be scared a little bit. I'm excited. And this one is about a girl named Addie who can't remember a time before she and William lived alone on a mountain ridge together. She must never make him upset. But when she discovers the mutilated body of a fox in the woods, she realizes they're not really alone after all. There's something in the woods that wasn't there before, something that makes strange cries in the night, something with sharp teeth and claws. And when 3 strangers appear on the mountaintop looking for the creature in the woods, she knows their presence will anger William, and terrible things happen when William is angry. I don't even want to know what to think. I am just excited. I want to know what happens when he gets angry. I am just ready for the whole thing. So let's just read it. I can't wait for it to be a 5-star. Then another book that I'm reading in January for a book club that I'm doing with another friend. I can't remember which person I'm doing it with right now. But I've heard amazing things about this book as well. Is No Exit by Taylor Adams. My son has decided to sit right underneath me. But we're going to try it anyway. Okay, No Exit by Taylor Adams. So, a kidnapped little girl is locked in a stranger's van. No help for miles. What would you do? On her way to Utah to see her dying mother, college student Darby Thorne gets caught in a fierce blizzard in the mountains of Colorado. With the roads impassable, she's forced to wait out the storm at a remote highway rest stop, and she sees a coffee machine, vending machines for complete strangers. Desperate to find a signal, she goes back out into the storm and makes it a horrifying discovery. In the back of the van parked next to her car, a little girl is locked in an animal crate. Who is she? Why has she been taken? And how can she save her when there is no cell phone reception, no telephone, and no way out, but one of those 4 people is a kidnapper? How are they going to figure it out? I'm so excited. I cannot wait to read this. I'm sure this is going to be like a really quick read. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. My mom loved this book, so let's get it started. All right, we are on our last 4 books of what I think are going to be 5-star predictions. And let's start with the book of the year for 2021, Kristen Hanna's The 4 Winds. I mean, this cover alone is like beautiful. Like, just beautiful. But this one basically is set in 1934, and millions are out of work, and a drought has broken the Great Plains. Farmers are fighting to keep their land and their livelihood as their crops are failing, the water is drying up, and dust threatens to bury them all. One of the darkest periods of the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl era has arrived with a vengeance. Elsa Martinelli, like so many of her neighbors, must make an agonizing choice. Fight for the land she loves, or go west to California in search of a better life. I've heard this is very sad. I've heard it's going to make me cry. I've heard all sorts of amazing things about it. I'm just excited to finally get to it. I'm making it a priority in 2022. I'm ready to cry right alongside everybody else and see if it's a 5-star ultimately. Then this is a fun little romance that I'm super excited to read. I've heard a lot of really great things about it, and it is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena. I can't remember her last name at this exact moment. But it's about a girl named Catalina Martin who desperately needs a date to her sister's wedding, especially since her little white lie about her American boyfriend has spiraled out of control. Everyone she knows, including her ex and his fiancé, are going to be there and eager to meet him. She only has 4 weeks to find someone to bring to this wedding that's willing to cross the Atlantic and aid in her deception. Enters Aaron Blackford, her tall, handsome, condescending colleague who surprisingly offers to step in, and I'm sure they're going to end up falling in love. You know how these love stories go. I've heard this is super cute, super fun. I'm just excited to get to it. I'm trying to make sure I get to a couple of romances in 2022, and so this is one that I think is going to be a 5-star for sure. Then another book that I'm too lazy to get off the shelf because it's on the top shelf, but that I own, is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. So that is the second book in the Kiss Quotient trilogy, which those books, you can read all of them individually without having to have read the other stories. It's just that some of the characters overlap. Like, for example, one of the main characters in The Bride Test was a cousin or so, I believe, of the main character in The Kiss Quotient. So this is about Kai Deep. He has no feelings. Well, he feels irritation when people move his things, or contentment when ledgers bounce down to the penny, but not big, important emotions like grief and love. He thinks he's kind of defective. His family knows better, that his autism means he just processes emotions differently, which this is something I really loved about it. Autism is very near and dear to my heart. I have 2 disabled brothers. One has autism and one has Asperger's. And so I very strongly love reading books that have like a disabled character in that regard. This is why I love this series. But basically, he avoids relationships when his mother takes matters into her own hand and returns to Vietnam to find him the perfect bride. Esme has always felt out of place. When the opportunity arises for her to come to America and meet a potential husband, she can't turning it down, thinking this could be the break her family needs. Seducing Kai himself, though, doesn't go as planned. Her lessons in love seem to be working, but only on herself. She's in love with a man who's convinced that he can never return her affection. And so, of course, we're wondering, is it going to work out for them? Are they going to be able to be happy ever after or not? I've heard this is the best one out of the 3 in the series, so I'm super excited to read it and see if it's a 5-star or not. I did give the Kiss Quotient 4.5 stars, so because people said that this one was better than Kiss Quotient, I'm very excited to see. And then the last 5-star prediction of the hour, and this one is quite polarizing because I've heard people either love or hate this author, is Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I'm going to give it a go that I'm going to love her, but we will see. So this is about Connell and Marianne, who at school pretend not to know each other. He's popular and well-adjusted, the star of the school soccer team, and she's lonely, proud, and intensely private. But when Connell comes to pick his mother up from her housekeeping job at Marianne's house, a strange connection grows between the 2 teenagers, one they are determined to conceal. A year later, they're both studying at Trinity College in Dublin. Marianne has found her feet in a new social world, while he hangs at the sidelines, shy and uncertain. Throughout their years in college, Marianne and Connell circle one another, straying towards other people and possibilities, but they are always irresistibly drawn back together. And then as she veers into self-destruction and he begins to search for meaning elsewhere, they must confront how far they are willing to go to save the other. I'm so excited for this. I think it's going to be really good. Like I said, it's very polarizing. People either love her style of writing or don't. But we're going to find out, because I also did buy her Conversations with Friends book at the same time. I do not have Beautiful World, Where Are You? Because I was going to wait until the paperback version came out, because, like, I don't want 2 paperbacks and then a hardcover, because, like, that's going to bother me to no end. But I'm going to read this one first, and we shall see. And that's it for my 5-star predictions for 2022. I'm super excited to see which one of these are going to stand up to the task. So every time I read one of these throughout 2022, I will check it off, let you know whether it stayed a 5-star or not, what it ended up being, and then we will see if I really can predict my own taste of what I think is going to be a 5-star. I'm super excited to get to all of these books. I cannot wait until the new year so I can just start diving in and seeing which one of these have the potential to actually get a 5-star from me. So, if you liked this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, share, stick around. We are going to be doing a lot more videos towards the end of this year, talking about my top books of my year, my least favorite books of the year, what I plan on reading next. I'm going to be doing a video soon on top series and books that I just really want to get to in 2022. So not ones that I think will necessarily be 5-star predictions, but ones that I just also want to read. I mean, I just want to read all the things. I just want to read all the things, if we're being honest. But I'm going to let you go, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!